SLT Mobitel Fiber, the fiber of the nation. SLT Mobitel Fiber, the fiber of the nation.
රෝස සුවඳ තවත් දෙකෝ කලක් රැඳෙන්න ඩබල් පර්ෆියුම් ලුක් සමගින් එන නව සන්ලයිට් රෝස්.
Tonight, matter of time. Sri Lankan health experts say that OMICRON entering the island is inevitable.
Within this window of opportunity, we could delay the arrival of this variant. We would be able to get the country ready.
Architect of the country's problems. The Samagi Janabalawege critical of the president's unpopular policy interventions remark.
Once you are elected, whether a decision is popular or unpopular, it is the right decision for the country and for its people, it needs to be taken.
Perpetual disappointment. Tourism sector fearing another body blow.
Another wave of travel bans or curbs are highly worrisome as it could slow down the recovery of the industry from the nearly 2-year pandemic.
I hope that the government does not take any drastic action in changing the current protocols.
Adverse weather. Rains intensify. Red notice issued over possible landslides.
Some sort of reduction in afternoon thunder showers can be expected from 2nd onwards.
All that and much more coming up on First at 9. This Sunday, the 28th of November, 2021.
Nelly මතකෙන් ගිලිහුණු black shine එකස් කලඹක රහස sunset black shine සමගින්.
From AdaDerana, this is AdaDerana First at 9. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
Good evening and welcome to First at 9. I'm Dhammik Ekanaik. Now, the discovery of the new COVID variant, OMICRON, is sending countries around the world into panic mode, with some already imposing travel bans and tightening public health and safety guidelines. As for Sri Lanka, the expert view is that the virus entering the country is inevitable and it is simply a matter of time. Amid the fears, information coming out of South Africa, where OMICRON was first detected, however, say that its symptoms are unusual but mild in healthy patients.
The focus of the entire world is on OMICRON, the latest variant of COVID-19 to have been identified. And with it is good reason, as the World Health Organization has already categorized it as a variant of concern, with one immunologist speculating that the new variant could be 500% more transmissible than the feared Delta variant. The variant first found in South Africa is now found in 8 other countries, including the United Kingdom, Italy and Germany. Certain countries have already banned travellers from African nations and have tightened public health and safety guidelines. UK PM Boris Johnson announced yesterday that from today it would become mandatory for people to wear face masks when travelling in public transport. Meanwhile, Israel became the first country to close their borders in light of the discovery of the new variant to all countries. The Israeli Prime Minister said that the move will be in place for at least 14 days. Sri Lanka is also one of those countries to have closed the borders for some African nations, so far 6 in total. But the Sri Lanka Medical Association has resigned to the eventuality of the virus entering the island, saying it's just a matter of time.
We do not believe that we'll be able to stop arrival of this variant to Sri Lanka, but within this window of opportunity, we could delay the arrival of this variant to Sri Lanka as much as possible, and within that window of opportunity, we would be able to get the country ready to face this threat caused by OMICRON variant. It's important that there are steps that need to be taken by the government, as well as there are measures that need to be adopted by the people of the country. The government already has taken certain steps and have to strengthen the hospital facilities if in case there's a need, so that the hospitals get ready to accommodate the increase in number of patients. But as far as the people are concerned, I think that there's no point in worrying of this particular variant, but what we need to do is to adhere to basic health habits that we have been doing over the last 2 years.
The fear factor already associated with OMICRON is due to the variant having 32 mutations on its spike protein. The spike protein is targeted by vaccines, and it is the spike protein that the virus uses to enter the body. Experts believe that this could well mean that the variant is capable of evading the vaccine-induced immunity and be more transmissible. However, a South African doctor to first sound the alarm over the Omicron variant said that its symptoms are unusual but mild in healthy patients. Dr. Angelique Cortez said that 24 patients, mostly young men, had not lost their smell or taste, but rather depicted symptoms such as sore muscles and tiredness for a day or two, or not feeling well. Nevertheless, she cautioned that the situation could be very different in the case of older people or those with various comorbidities, as they could be worse affected. Meanwhile, Pfizer and BioNTech says that they expect to have laboratory data on how its jab performs against Omicron in 2 weeks' time. They say that they can adapt their mRNA vaccine within 6 weeks and start shipping batches within 100 days if an escapee variant is identified. But experts say that since transmission is inevitable, boosting immunity via vaccines and through natural means is the best way forward.
It's impossible for us to stop transmission of the disease. Transmission of the disease is a problem for schools, teachers, as well as for officers and to the community. So as majority are vaccinated at present, maintain your immunity with good diet and exercise. The vaccine is scientifically proven to give you protection. It's the people who are with less immunity that would develop the complications and the worst consequences of the infection.
In the meantime, issuing a communique, the World Health Organization urged South Asian countries to be vigilant as new cases surge globally and the detection of the new variant of concern. The regional director for Southeast Asian region of the WHO says that comprehensive and tailored public health and social measures to prevent transmission must continue. The WHO notes that the earlier the protective measures are implemented, the less restrictive they would need to be in order to be effective.
The country's main opposition, the Samagi Janabalawegaya, today had President Gotabaya Rajapaksa's recent comments in its crosshairs. On Friday evening, the head of state noted that some unpopular policy interventions will have to be made in the short term to address Sri Lanka's economic situation and that the island is left with limited choices. But the SJB is adamant that the issues the country is faced with are the government's own doing.
Before the presidential election, they went around the country saying that the former government was taxing. What did they do? They made false promises. They drastically cut all the taxes. The country's revenue fell by 1/3, by nearly 600 billion rupees. The tax net, which was about 900,000 people paying taxes in this country, we had increased it in a short period to 1.7 million people, creating social justice that more people were actually paying taxes which they had to pay. We had doubled the income of the country from 1 trillion to 2 trillion. Corona hit, there were no revenues to take care of the health services in this country and bring down the vaccination and others early. At the same time, education had to go online. Mothers and fathers couldn't afford tabs, computers, smartphones. Getting the right policy is important, not whether it's popular or unpopular. This is what they have done. In agriculture, we gave cash subsidy to the farmers. We said you can have organic fertilizer or chemical fertilizer. You make the decision. That's a democratic way to do it. They tried to bring the farmers against us that day. What have they done today? Again, wrong decisions. And the harvest has gone down. Fuel is imported from abroad. Therefore, the local fuel prices must reflect international fuel prices. So we came up with the fuel price formula. They laughed at us. Now the president comes and says, we need to take drastic measures. We need to make the right decisions. Unfortunately, that day, even on the fuel price formula, the media, in breaking news, started to give and say, here, they are trying to introduce a fuel price formula and try to make a joke of what we've actually trying to do. Once you are elected, whether a decision is popular or unpopular, if it's the right decision for the country and for its people, it needs to be taken.
මේ රටේ තරුණ පරපුර එදා පොලිමට ගිහිල්ලා කතරේ ගැහුවා. එදා ඡන්ද පොලිම අද පරිවර්තනය වෙලා තියෙනවා පාස්පෝර්ට් පොලිමට. හැබැයි බොරුව සත්‍ය වීමේ ඵල විපාක වසර කීපයක්වත් යන්නට පෙර ලක්ෂ 220කට අත්විඳින්න සිද්ධ වෙනවා. කිසිම ප්‍රශ්නයකට විසඳුම් නැහැ. ස්වභාවික නිර්මාණය වෙන ප්‍රශ්න වලට අමතරව හිතා මතාව පාලකයෝ නිර්මාණය කරන ප්‍රශ්න. දැන් බොහෝ දෙනෙක් අහනවා මොකද්ද විසඳුම් කියලා. මේ ශ්‍රේණිගත කිරීම වලින් ලංකාව පහළ වැටෙන්නේ මේ ජාත්‍යන්තර කුමන්ත්‍රණයක් හින්දා කියලා. දැන් මොකද්ද වෙලා තියෙන්නේ? දැන් ශ්‍රේණිගත කිරීම වලින් රට බිඳුවටම වැටිලා. ජාත්‍යන්තර ණය වෙළඳ පොළට ගිහිල්ලා ඩොලර් ණයක් ගන්නට අපිට හැකියාවක් නැහැ. ඇයි? ඒ ඩොලර් ණය වලට අසීමිත පොලියක් ගෙවන්න සිද්ධ වෙනවා. මේ රට ඉතාමත්ම අමාරු අඩියකට වැටිලා තියෙනවා.
Foreign Minister Professor G.L. Pires, who is also the former Minister of Education, says that there is dangerous backlash and a sense of indignation on part of students who failed to find gainful employment following higher education. Addressing a research symposium recently, he said that the solution could be to ensure that those who excel in vocational training are accepted into universities.
When I was an undergraduate student here in the Faculty of Law, we had just 17 students in our batch. Now, as Vice Chancellor, the main challenge that I faced was to exponentially increase the numbers that are admitted into the university, but to ensure to the maximum extent possible that that process of democratization is not done at the expense of quality. You have to ensure that the system does not collapse under the sheer weight of numbers. Now, there are great dangers that are attendant on this whole exercise. Because as you educate people, as you confer degrees on them, naturally there are high levels of expectation. A boy or girl with a university degree has the legitimate expectation of employment that is commensurate with his or her qualification. The student thinks, rightly, that he is entitled to gainful employment that will give him a decent salary to live on. When it subsequently transpires that the products of the system do not have access to any employment at all, let alone satisfying, lucrative or gainful employment, the result is a dangerous backlash, a feeling of deep indignation, not against anyone in particular, but indignation directed against the social order. Now, we have seen the horrendous results of that within this university. We have to ensure that the products of the system, at the end of the day, feel that they have derived something of value from the education that has been imparted to them within these walls. Today, we are in a position to admit into our university system only a minuscule minority of the students who have demonstrated their competence to benefit from university education. That is no fault of theirs. It is because of the inadequacy of the physical infrastructure of our universities. Now, in that situation, it is very important to ensure that the people who are excluded from admission to universities do not feel that they are dropouts, that they are failures in life. It is that that will lead to a sense of disenchantment, frustration, and intense indignation. I think at least an important part of the answer is vocational training. One of the anomalies in the existing structure is that the formal academic stream and the vocational stream are entirely distinct and separate, without any link or connection. Now, we looked at the experience of other countries, so there's no need to reinvent the wheel. We can benefit from the experience of others, but subject to the caveat that we always need to adapt that experience to suit the circumstances in our own country. One of the policy issues that I would like the university community to address is the way that the university system can, in some appropriate manner, integrate students who have made progress in the vocational area.
We will see you shortly on the other side of this break. Stay with us.
Big 3.
Welcome back. You're watching First at 9. Now, the body of the person that went missing after the vehicle he was travelling in plunged into the river Mahaweli was recovered this afternoon. The incident occurred last night and there were 2 others in the vehicle with him at the time, but they managed to escape with minor injuries.
A light vehicle which had been travelling along the Kandy-Gurdaniya road last night had veered off-road and had plunged into the river Mahaweli in the area of Ilukmodara at around 10 p.m. Police investigations have revealed that the driver had lost control of the vehicle, which had led to the incident. 3 persons in total had been in the vehicle at the time of the incident, and as the vehicle entered the river, the driver and another had managed to escape. The remaining person had drowned with the vehicle. With both the vehicle and the passenger missing, a special search operation was launched by the police and the army. After over 9 hours of search, the police life-saving unit found the vehicle from a deep pocket in the river, a little beyond where the vehicle entered the water. Meanwhile, it was around 3:30 p.m. that the missing passenger's body was recovered by the Navy divers. The deceased was a 39-year-old from the area of Maligatana in Gurudeniya. The two persons who survived the incident were admitted to the CANTEEN National Hospital with minor injuries. The police are conducting further investigations into the incident.
Minister Dinesh Gunawardena has criticised electronic media for failing to charge a fair fee during election campaigning. His views came during the meeting of the Parliamentary Select Committee to identify appropriate reforms of the election laws and the electoral system and to recommend necessary amendments. While noting that very high fees were charged from election candidates for advertisements during the election period, Minister Gunawardena pointed out the serious injustice in the practice. 3 electronic media institutions testified at the committee, which met on Friday, and a representative of one of them said that there is no consensus on the election laws affecting the media in Sri Lanka. Meanwhile, another noted that there should be a similarity between the prices charged by media institutions for election advertisements and called for consensus through talks. Parliamentarian Rauf Hakim, who was also present, however, said that there should be at least a code of ethics for journalists regarding election reporting. The Bakery Owners Association says that the price of a 450-gram loaf of bread will be increased by 10 rupees from this midnight. It says that the decision was made in consideration of the price increase of wheat flour. The relevant companies yesterday increased the price of wheat flour by 17 rupees. Meanwhile, the All-Ireland Canteen Owners Association has decided to increase the price of bakery products by 5 rupees and a kottu by 10 rupees with effect from tomorrow. The association, however, accuses wheat flour importers of creating an artificial shortage of wheat flour to boost prices. Now, with the arrival of new COVID variant Omicron, Sri Lanka's limping tourism sector is fearing yet another body blow. Although there was some high hopes of recovery for the sector in the months ahead, tourism sector professionals fear that the government might be tempted to impose travel bans to prevent the variant from entering the island. While urging the government to not jump the gun, they harbour some degree of optimism, despite the variant being detected from several key markets.
Since 2019, Sri Lanka's tourism sector has been desperately trying to lift its head amid one challenge after another. First, it was the Easter Sunday terror attacks. Then, the COVID pandemic and its multiple waves. In 2019, Sri Lanka's tourism was $3.6 billion from 1.9 million tourist arrivals. Then in 2020, that dropped to a mere $956 million. And as of September, only $32.8 million had come into the island from tourism. But back in 2018, when the going was good, 2.3 million tourists came to Sri Lanka, bringing the island a hefty $4.3 billion in foreign exchange. Though a strong recovery was expected in 2020, the pandemic meant it didn't happen. It was the same story this year as well, but following mass vaccination, there was hope of tourism sector recovery in the months ahead. Some were even optimistic of better numbers in 2022, which would rival that of 2018. But now it seems the new COVID variant Omicron might scupper those expectations as well.
Another wave of travel bans or curbs are highly worrisome as it could slow down the recovery of the industry from the nearly 2-year pandemic. We have secured good bookings for the coming seasons compared to the previous year. The government has taken proactive measures immediately, and the government has banned visitors from 6 African nations entering the country. Sri Lanka Tourism is working very closely with the government and especially the health authorities, and we will not only extend our full cooperation but also follow their advice in controlling the latest situation. However, I don't see any reason to panic at this stage, but we have once again reiterated to all our stakeholders, especially our hotel partners, the need to follow strict health guidelines to help curb the spread of the virus. The reduction of the Omicron variant in some of our key European tourism destinations is also highly worrisome for us. We are waiting for health authorities to give us necessary direction to see what steps can be taken to curb this variant.
Omicron is detected in some of Sri Lanka's key tourism markets such as the UK and Germany. According to the Sri Lanka Association Inbound Tour Operators, the loss of those markets are not expected to have a considerable impact. But what they fear are government restrictions.
We are concerned about the new variant that has come up. But on the other hand, we do not get any South African tourists much from that region to Sri Lanka. So it is very unlikely that we have this variant coming through the tourists. Even the WHO had mentioned that some governments have been too quick in changing the health protocols against South Africa because the new variant has yet to be going through a technical advisory group. But having said that, maybe some of our main European countries might get affected due to these restrictions. But we still have the Russian market, the Eastern European market. We had the Russian Aeroflot and Sri Lankan Airlines, which came in this morning, which brought us 400 tourists. We have Air Astana coming in this week with another 200 tourists. I mean, that's coming 3 times a week. We have the Air France, the Swiss Air, we have a lot of Polish airlines coming in. So all these new airlines are coming, and also Sri Lankan Airlines flying into Paris and so on. So I hope that the government will not take any drastic action in changing the current protocols, which will hamper the current wave that we are going and experiencing. Because our target is to reach to at least 500,000 tourists by April, which will bring in about $600 million US.
The National Building Research Organisation has issued red alert early landslide warnings to several areas of Kandy, Kegol and Kurunegala districts. With heavy deluge causing havoc in some areas of the country, the Department of Meteorology forecasts some respite in the latter part of next week.
Across the latter part of last week, the rains yet again intensified and they continue affecting many districts. So much so that the low-lying areas in the Mahaoya River Basin are facing minor floods. The Department of Irrigation said floods have started in low-lying areas of the Gramanildara divisions of Maradagolla, Naula, Diuladeniya and Valihinda under the Giriyulla Divisional Secretariat. What's more, the spill gates are open at the Daduroya Reservoir owing to the volume of water accumulated at the tank. As such, the Disaster Management Centre warns of minor flood situations in the Divisional Secretariat areas of Varyapola, Nikavaratiya, Mahava, Kobaigane, Pallama, Chilau, Arachikattua and Rasnayaka. Meanwhile, early landslide warnings have been issued to some areas of several districts including Kandy, Kegol and Ratnapura.
Red warning was issued to Udunumbara Division in Kandy district, Darvegala, Deyovita, Mavanella, Varakapola, Vanwella, Kegol, Galigamua, Yatiantota, Aranayaka, Blood GOVT, Rambukana, Division Secretary Division in Kegol district, Mavatagaman, Polgavela Division Secretary Kurunegala district.
In the meantime, the Colombo-Kandy main road was closed until 6 p.m. this evening from Pahala Kaduga since last midnight. The road, however, is now open for traffic. It is the second time that the road had to be closed this month. After contacting the Director General of the National Building Research Organisation, Asiri Karunawardana, on the matter, he said the road was closed yesterday due to heavy rainfall of 120 millimeters that fell in the area. He added that such closures can be expected in the future as well until permanent measures such as rock fences are constructed to prevent rockfalls. Following heavy deluge, a massive rock had fallen on 2 houses in the area of Amagastana in Kandy. One house was completely destroyed while the other sustained partial damage. Meanwhile, transportation along the Kegol-Avisavella road was hampered last night following the earth slip in the area of Balapattava. The AdaDerana correspondent said that one lane of the road was cleared for traffic this morning after about 5 hours. In the meantime, an embankment had enclosed on a house in the area of Daragoda in Yatiantota last night, causing heavy damage. There was a landslide along the Passara Ella main road as well. The AdaDerana correspondent said that the incident had hampered transportation along the road. In the meantime, there could be some respite from the heavy rains in the latter part of the week.
Atmospheric conditions are favorable for the formation of afternoon thunder showers today as well as during next 2 days. Some sort of reduction in afternoon thunder showers can be expected from 2nd onwards. Tonight, heavy showers above 100 mm may occur at some places in western, Sabaragamu, central, northwestern and Ua provinces as well as in Gol, Mathura and Mannar districts.
The recently held UDA Investment Forum 2021 showcased 45 real estate projects of the Urban Development Authority that are expected to be used to attract both local and foreign investment. Speaking at the event, Governor of the Central Bank, Ajit Nimad Cabral, said that this project of the UDA is the next wave of the country's development. He added that it will help to manage the country's debt situation as well.
The UDA Investment Forum 2021, organised by the Urban Development Authority as well as the State Ministry of Urban Development, Waste Disposal and Community Cleanliness, was worked off last Thursday under the patronage of Central Bank Governor Ajit Nimad Cabral. The forum showcased 45 real estate projects of the Urban Development Authority that fell under several categories such as mixed development, residential tower development, hospitality and leisure development, and logistic hub development. The aim of the UDA is to hand over these projects for both local and foreign investors on the basis of lease or public-private partnership in the coming years.
All tough times provide us with opportunities as well, as we know. There is a new adjustment that we can make to our economy. We have found that our foreign debt burden is somewhat tough for us to handle for the future. At the time that we had a $79 billion economy, our exposure to international sovereign bonds was only $5 billion, which was about 6% of our total ISBs to the GDP. But by 2019, it had risen to $15 billion of ISBs, and the economy had only grown up to $84 billion. So that put an enormous amount of stress to us. We found that we had to have some clear strategies and implement those. One was to ensure that we change the debt structure. Some debts that we were having on a commercial basis, we are now shifting towards government-to-government loans or central bank-to-central bank swaps. The other, we identified a new area which used to monetize some of the assets that were not being utilized for a long period of time. And there came the UDA. You came up with a package of possible contenders to meet with that need. That's a very important change that we are infusing into our economy. That's a vital change that is going to be one of the important platforms on which we will develop the country for the next several years. On one side, from the point of view of the central bank, it is helpful for us to ensure that our debt situation becomes a lot more manageable. Because you will bring in foreign exchange, which we don't have to pay back. That will come in and stay in this country permanently. And that will help us enormously to restructure our overall debt portfolio, which is what we need. The second is that all these underutilized assets that were not generating any economic activity would now be positioned to provide that new impetus to the economy. If we make use of this $6 billion of new inflows that can come into the country by way of the 50 projects that you have enumerated, that would generate an enormous amount of economic potential that will lead to growth, employment, that will lead to a sustainable position as far as our economy is concerned. We know that the port city is a $1.4 billion investment. What you are envisaging is 4 times that. That's a massive investment. If that investment were to come and that lays the platform for the next wave of development in our country, the impact of that would be felt across all parts of our economy.
We aim to streamline and formalize business procedures and to elevate Sri Lanka's ranking in global ranking and increase global competitiveness in Sri Lanka. On the other hand, we look forward to further our endeavors and mobilize private investments, both domestic and foreign. In order to ensure the investors are provided an eased environment for investing and doing business, the Urban Development Authority, in the process of bringing forward a centralized promotion and facilitation center, one-stop shop unit, which is intended to expedite the necessary clearances and approvals from relevant line agencies concurrently through one platform. It definitely expedites the planning and development process through a more holistic, efficient, and effective decision-making process. Further, as the Urban Development Authority holds the key statutory powers to manage urban declared areas, it assures that the rapid urbanization is controlled and guided through regularly updated regulations and guidelines based on the context of to offer better opportunities for investors. We believe such initiatives will encourage investors to look into investment avenues that could be expanded around the island.
Market analysts expect retail interest at certain counters of the Colombo Bourse in the week starting from tomorrow. This year's Euro Share Price Index ended at a record high last Friday after gaining 171.95 points to close at 11,197.68. Here's Ashudan Srirangan with what we can expect at the Colombo Stock Exchange in the coming week.
For the last week, we've seen a healthy run in the market, more than 690 points runs, and the market posted the all-time high level points in the market. Mainly the market driven by the higher turnover coming from the food and beverage counters and plus the material sectors, because when we are moving into the quarter, the last month and fresh year, we see a lot of retail interest on the certain counters which push the prices for few counters, and we feel the same momentum will continue for the next week on selective stocks actually, and we've seen market going to post the all-time high on the next week as well.
And that's it from all of us here at First at 9. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.